everyone. Welcome to the Money Spots presentation today on financial fitness and the 10 steps to becoming financially fit. Myself and Mia are going to be taking you through this presentation today. I'm Dorian Philpott. I'm the lead money coach at the Money Spot. I'm a senior economics major with a political science minor, and I'm also pursuing a certificate in leadership.
And my name is Mia. I also work at the Money Spot as a peer financial coach. I'm a third-year psych major, and something fun I like to do is play The Sims in my free time.
Yeah, so we're just going to go ahead and get started.
Okay, so this slide is basically a quick rundown of everything we're going to be discussing today. I'll just run through the list just to, keep us organized. So first we've got setting financial goals. We've got securing future incomes. We've got to build a cash flow plan. It's important to prepare for the unexpected, identify your assets, know your debts, understanding loans, understanding how to build and maintain our credit scores. It's important to invest in ourselves and also to align our values with our finances. Okay, so step one to becoming financially fit is setting goals. And how we set goals here at the Money Spot is through SMART goals. It's an acronym, so I'm going to take you guys through it. So S stands for specific. So it's basically just what exactly do I want to accomplish. It's a way to make our goals more neat and more niche. M stands for measurable, which is how much, referring to money. So maybe how much you just save, how much are things going to cost, etc. So A stands for attainable, and it is what do I need to accomplish. So I think it's helpful to use this kind of as like a checklist of what I need to get my goals done with, kind of like to see like where I'm at, where I need to be. R is relevant, and this is your why. So why is this important to us? Why are we saving for this? This is kind of useful for people who maybe are sometimes feeling discouraged, or maybe they want to spend their savings, or they're just like, what is this money even for? Your relevance is going to remind you, like, this is why I'm so, focused. I'm so passionate. Like, this is what we're trying to get done. And then T stands for time-based, which is when do I want to reach this goal? This can be anywhere from like 6 weeks, 6 months, 6 years. Yes. I'll run through a quick example, just super easy. Let's say we want to buy a car. So for this goal, how do you make buying a car more specific? Well, maybe I can say if I want it new or used, maybe I want a 2-door or 4-door. We can get into makes and models, years. I'm not a car girl, but like, I don't know, just different aspects of your car, that's how we can make it more specific. Measurable, like what's my budget for my car? Maybe, I don't know, cars are super expensive. Maybe I want like $10,000 for a car, something like that, just to give you some sort of number. A, attainable, what do I need to buy a new car? Maybe I need some credit, right? Maybe I need a car loan. You might need a license to be able to drive the car. Insurance, right? Just a job, yes, please have a job so you can buy a car. So yeah, just there's a bunch of different things. And are relevant. Why do I want to go? Why do I want to buy a car? Maybe I want more freedom. Maybe I need something to get me from point A to point B. I'm tired of taking Richmond city buses, whatever. And time-based. So when do I want to reach my goal? Maybe I want my car by the summer, August or something. So yeah, that is just one example of how to use SMART goals, and feel free to apply them to like any and all goals that you may have. Okay, so step 2 is finding a job. I'm going to read this little stat for you. In 2019, 86% of graduating students stated that their job was very related or somewhat related to their program of study in college. I know this stat makes me feel pretty confident because we're all probably going to VCU to like find a job that's for us, something that we're passionate about, something that we can see ourselves doing for a little bit. So that's important to us, right? And so a good resource to use would be career services. They're super helpful in helping you find jobs and helping with like your resumes and kind of to like narrow down your interests, like what you want to do, what you don't really want to do, to kind of get you to where you need to be as far as careers go. Okay, the next step is cash flow planning. You could also think of this as a budget, some way to track your incomes and your expenses. So super necessary to be able to save is like, you need to know where your money is going, right? It's important to like track your money. So it's important to break down our expenses. And so there are two kinds of expenses. There are variable expenses and our fixed expenses. So our variable expenses are things that are going to change from month to month. So maybe I want to buy some decorations for my room, or sometimes groceries differ. What's something else, like gas bills, electricity bills, that kind of a thing. So things that aren't going to be as stable versus fixed expenses are bills that are usually going to be the same from month to month. So that's like our rent, our insurance, a car note, something like that. That's
Also like subscriptions to things. So whether it's like Spotify, Amazon, Apple Music, any of those types of things, those are also a fixed amount that you know that you're going to have to pay every single month.
Yeah, and I've definitely got too many of those. I swear I've got like 3 that you just mentioned. But yeah, that is fixed and variable expenses. So one way to kind of control these or keep an eye on these in your budget is to start with your fixed expenses and adjust your variable expenses as you need to. So it's important to like have the money to pay the bills that you need and that aren't going to change. So we want our money to primarily go to like our rent and like our car, right? And then we can worry about some of the more fun things like our subscriptions. Like we don't really need Netflix, Hulu, and HBO Max, right? Like maybe we can cut one out, whatever. Maybe we don't need to eat out as much or decorate our dorm any more than it already is. So it's important to, you know, manage what needs to be managed. And so, yeah.
The other thing I would add is that it's a lot, like Mia was just saying, it's a lot easier to manage and change your cash flow based on your expenses. But some people do choose to manage their cash flow by changing their income. So that would mean maybe you're picking up a few extra hours at your job. Maybe you're trying to pick up a side hustle as like a DoorDasher, or like you pet sit or you babysit or something like that. Those are all ways that you can, we see commonly for people to pick up extra money to increase their income so they don't have to give up some of those expenses. It's kind of situational dependent and kind of individual to you. You have to constantly be prepared to reevaluate your cash flow to make sure that your needs are being met, whatever they might be.
Beautiful.
Thank you.
Okay, so next, we're going to talk about saving for the unexpected. Another stat here, which is super interesting. 46% of Americans don't have $400 saved for an emergency. You know, this is pretty crucial to living, especially like living in the big city where there's always something going on. We always want to be prepared for the unexpected. And it's nice to have like some sort of safety net or something to fall back on if your plans don't, fall through how they should, or if you unexpectedly, like, God forbid, lose a job or can't work. It's important to have an emergency fund. So a good place to be is 3 to 6 months of your expenses. But of course, this is going to take some time to save all of this money up. So honestly, just start wherever you can. Maybe you want to start with 500 and work up to however much, your number needs to be. If you need to start lower, start lower. Something is always better than nothing. In case of an emergency. But we do shoot for 3 to 6 months to just help us afford our bills if we don't have any income for a certain period of time. And this was, proven to be necessary, due to this whole pandemic, and everybody's like getting sick and people can't work. And I know a lot of people who were prepared for their emergencies and had their emergency funds. I bet they were a lot more stable, and it probably gave them some sort of peace of mind, even though that pandemic lasted forever, or it's still ongoing. So
no, absolutely. Okay, so now we're kind of going to transition into some more long-term things that you might be thinking about in order to help you become financially fit. So the first thing is net worth. So net worth is kind of think about it as what you are worth in the long run. And so we kind of calculate that using a little formula where you take all your assets and then you subtract all your debts, and then whatever the leftover amount is your net worth. So step 5 is identifying your assets, and we'll see a more comprehensive list of assets and debts on the next slide. But assets are any things that you have that if you sold them today would be worth money. So that could be collectibles, jewelry, investment accounts, houses, cars, all of those types of things would be considered assets that you have, right? Because they are worth some money to you. And then the next thing you want to be thinking about is your debts. So those are the things that you have that you might owe money on. So one thing that I like to always bring up at this point is good debt versus bad debt. So there are 2 types of debt. One is good debt and one is bad debt. Good debt is things that you owe money for, but that are going to serve a purpose for you in the long run. So traditionally, we think about student loans as a form of good debt because, as Mia was kind of talking about earlier, you attend college to help you get that job that you're after. So the money that you're spending to go to college, yes, it's a little bit unfortunate. It's a hefty sum, but at the end of the day, it's going to give you that degree and going to help you attain that job that you're after and put you at a significantly better spot as far as salary goes than if you did not have a college degree. And then bad debt is something we want to limit, and that's more like consumption debt. So that's sinking money, right? Money you're never going to get back that you use maybe once and it hasn't really served a purpose for you since then. And we'll kind of see some more examples, like I said, on the next slide. And lastly, you want to work to build up your net worth kind of over time. So as a college student, because you might have student loans, your net worth is probably going to be negative or about at 0. But slowly you want to start doing things to build up your assets, whether that's making some long-term investments as you get maybe a little bit older. That might be purchasing a house, something like that, but just something you want to be on the lookout for in the long run. So, like I said, on this slide, as far as assets goes, we have cars, houses, any cold hard cash that you might have. Stocks and bonds are definitely going to be worth money. Retirement accounts like 401ks, IRAs, stuff like that. Collectibles might be worth money to you. I will say about collectibles, though, it kind of depends on what it is. We want to be thinking high quality products. Sometimes we have people who are talking about how they have all types of collections of things, and it's okay, that might be true, but is it going to be worth money to you in the long run? Like, I know I have a snow globe collection, but I don't really think my snow globe collection is going to be worth a lot of money to me. It's just something that I have. Maybe it is bad, not bad debt, but maybe it's just a consumption debt that I have accumulated over my life. Also, if you own a business, that might be considered an asset if you have inventory that you could sell off. And lastly, jewelry, as I mentioned, could be worth a significant amount of money if you sold it. And then as far as debts go, like I mentioned, we have good debt, which is student loan debt. Credit card debt is typically considered consumption debt and something that we want to try to limit where we can, but we'll get into that in a few slides. Then we get to mortgages and home equity loans. So these can be good debt, right? Because they are helping you purchase a house. But if they're used like irresponsibly, they could be considered bad debt, kind of depending on the value of your home. And then we have personal loans, which again, depending on what you use them for, can be seen as good or bad debt. Mia, anything to add as far as net worth goes?
Nope, you've got it all covered.
Okay, perfect. So next, like I said, because we're talking about debt and good debt, I think we should talk about student loans, which is step 7, I believe. Mm-hmm. Okay, so it's really important that as a college student, you are regularly monitoring your student loan balance. Hopefully you guys are already like very good at that. But if you're not, it's something that you might want to start looking into. So that means having regular conversations with your financial counselor in the Student Financial Management Center, because those are going to be the people who can help you assess how much money you're currently taking out, how much money you might need for future semesters. Are you getting as much aid as you could? Like all of those types of things. At the Money Spot, we kind of worry a little bit more about what happens after you graduate or if you're ready to start paying back your student loans. So this is where it's really, really important for you to be doing that research. A resource that we really love is the Student Loan Simulator, which is on the studentaid.gov website. And that can really help you work through all of your future student loan concerns. And I really think that it's useful as far as kind of making student loan repayment seem a little bit less daunting, because you do have the opportunity to log in with your FAFSA information, and it will kind of auto-populate your loan amount. So you're not going digging through emails or old files to kind of remember, oh, what's my loan balance? What's my interest rate? Who's my loan servicer? All that information should automatically appear for you if there are federal loans. And then you kind of work through the simulator and it asks you questions about like what your expected salary might be after graduation. And you can kind of estimate those things and play around with them as you see fit. And then you get to kind of answer the question of what is your student loan repayment goal? And this is one of the most important questions because it really can change the results that you see. So people have all sorts of different philosophies with student loan repayment. Some people are trying to pay it off as fast as they possibly can because they don't want that debt hanging over their head, and that's fine for them. There's other people who are take a little bit more of a relaxed approach to student loan debt. They're like, hey, I know that this is something that I have to pay back, but I want my payments to be at a comfortable amount for me every month. And I don't have to worry about like trying to stretch the rest of my budget in order to make my student loan payments work. And there's several other strategies that people might have, but those are just 2 of the most common ones that we see. So you kind of answer that question. And then once you do, it will kind of give you a ranking of the student loan repayment plans offered at a federal level. And there's 8 different repayment plans. So it'll show you which one is best for you based on your repayment goals. Some of the plans include like the standard plan, which is where you pay a standard amount of money every month for usually 10 years. There's income-driven plans, which are a little bit more focused on making sure your loan amount is like comfortable for you based on your income. Then you get into plans that are more gradual. So every 2 years, they might increase a little bit. kind of under the assumption that you might be making a little bit more money every 2 years. So there's 8 different repayment plans based on your needs. You can kind of see all of them and understand what will work for you and what might not. And I really love that tool because it has graphs for visual people. It also uses like advantage and disadvantage lists to kind of help you if you're, you need to read all of the information and see everything available to you. And I like that too. It shows you what your monthly payment would be, how long it will take you to pay off your loans. And if it might change over time, it'll show you all that information too. And you can even compare plans like side by side or simulate what it would be like to make more payments or to increase your monthly payment. So it can kind of cover all of your needs. Private loans are a little bit different and a little bit more dependent on who your loan servicer is, but the studentaid.gov loan simulator tool is really, really helpful for federal loans. So you can go on and start using that tool now, or at any time it feels comfortable for you, but you do want to make sure that you're identifying when your repayment start date is going to be. So if you are graduating from VCU and you are not planning on going to school again immediately following, then your loan payment would traditionally start 6 months after you graduate. So before you get to that 6-month period, and even now while you're still in school, you want to start thinking, okay, like this is what my payment might be. Let me start making sure I know everything I need to about my loan servicer and how I'm supposed to pay before that date ever gets there. So you don't have to worry about late payments or anything like that. Mia, did I miss anything about student loans?
No, amazing.
Okay, I know that's kind of a mouthful, but studentaid.gov, the loan simulator tool, is the big takeaway from student loans. So next, we're going to talk about building your credit score or maintaining good credit, and that is step 8. So as you can see on the right, we have a pie chart, and this is the 5 major components that make up your FICO score. And these are also the same 5 components that make up majority of your credit report. So the number one best thing that you can do in order to build up your credit score and maintain good credit is pay all debts on time every time. And as you can see on the right in the pie chart, payment history makes up about 35% of that score and your credit report. So that is super important that you are making it a priority. So that means if you need to make extra payments every single month to make sure you are paying, then that's what you have to do. But paying on time every single time is paramount. So if you take anything away from today's presentation, hopefully it's pay on time every single time. The next thing that you can do to help build up your credit score is keep your old accounts open. Now, this is the biggest thing that I've learned since working at the Money Spot that I didn't know prior to, but the length of your credit history matters tremendously. As you can see, it makes up about 15% of your credit score. So that means that the first card you might open, you want to keep that open for as long as you possibly can, unless it has fees attached to it. If it has fees, you should probably close it if you're no longer using it. But cards that you still have, that you're still using, you should keep them open for as long as you possibly can. I know that our boss has told us that she has a credit card that she's had since she was like 18 years old. She's like, so I have an 18-year-old credit line with a company, and she does what she needs to do to maintain that credit card, but it's followed her everywhere she's been throughout her life. And it's really made a big difference as far as companies feeling comfortable trusting her. Because if you think about it like this, credit is a trust relationship that you establish with the credit card company or the lender. So if they can see that you are a good long-term customer, they're going to be more willing to lend to you and give you higher credit limits or higher loan amounts with lower interest rates. So it's really important that you keep your cards open for as long as you possibly can. The third thing is to avoid maxing out your credit. And that is the 30% utilization section of the pie chart. This is a big deal especially when you think about credit limits. Like a lot of people are familiar with that as a concept. So say, for example, I have a credit card where my limit is $1,000. I want to aim to use a certain percentage of that every single month or less. According to financial experts, 30% of your total credit limit is what you should be aiming to use every month. So in the example I just said, if my credit limit is $1,000, I want to be aiming to use $300 or less of that available limit every single month. So that limit goes not just for, or that rule goes not just for one credit card you have, but say you have 5 credit cards, you want your overall credit utilization to be around 30% or under as well. Just because it makes you look like a more responsible customer, and it means that you're not over borrowing and that you have a higher risk or a higher likelihood of paying off your debts every single month. Now, I know that 30% might seem a little bit unreasonable for some, but that's why it's a goal that I'm sharing with you. And if you're a little bit over every month, that's okay. You're working on it. If you're under, then that's great and you're doing a really good job. But that's what we're striving for, is 30%. And then the last 2 things that I'll talk about kind of in conjunction with each other are only apply for the credit that you need and have a mix of credit products. So I think it's pretty natural that over the course of your life, you will want different credit products. So whether that's different credit cards that do different things for you, say one has really good cashback rewards, you might want another card one day that gives you airline miles, or you might want to take out a loan for a house or for a car or something like that. Those are all like forms of credit that you might want to use at one point or another. So it's totally natural to want to diversify your credit profile. And that's why that makes up 10% of your total credit score is type of credit. But you want to make sure that you're applying for those types of credit at an optimal time for you. According to financial experts, you want to wait at least 6 months to a year between applying for forms of credit. So that means if you apply for a credit card and you get it, don't apply for another card 3 months later, just because, again, we want to show that we have a good relationship with our creditors and our lenders. So we don't want to be looking for forms of credit too close together. And this is because every single time you apply for a form of credit, what happens is called a hard inquiry on your credit. So that means that a lender or a credit card company is thoroughly looking at your credit score and your entire credit report. So to make sure that A, you're a good customer for them to want to work with, and B, how much money they want to lend to you, and C, at what interest rate they might want to lend to you. So if you're applying for too many forms of credit at one time, it'll show up on your credit report who has last seen your credit. And so if a bunch of credit card companies are seeing that you've applied for like 5 credit cards at one time, they might not want to lend to you because they don't think you are a serious customer. So when those hard inquiries happen, when people are thoroughly looking at your credit, you will see a temporary score drop. And that's also one of the reasons why we say that you want to wait at least 6 months to a year between forms of credit. You want to give your score and your credit report time to recover a little bit before you're applying for that new form of credit, because you want to be putting your best foot forward. You want the credit score that's most representative of your credit health. You want the credit report that's going to show the best possible marks that it can. So that's why we want to wait an appropriate amount of time between applying for forms of credit. So just a couple things, some general tips about credit that I want to throw out there, because we get a lot of questions about these things. And it kind of goes along with what we've just talked about. So number one, you checking your credit report or your credit score does not negatively impact you in any way. So what happens when you check your own credit report or you check your credit score is called a soft inquiry. So not the same as when a credit card company or a lender checks. That's a hard inquiry, but soft inquiries are for you. And sometimes when you get those like promotional credit card offers, those are soft inquiries as well. So they're not negatively impacting you. And we really recommend that you do regularly check your credit score and your credit report, because it can really help you understand kind of where you are and what areas that you might need to work on. So it's really a good thing for you to be checking those things. I like to say that a credit score is a snapshot of a moment in time versus a credit report, which is your overall financial history over the course of like 7 to 10 years, depending on how long you've had credit. So you want to use them in conjunction with each other. Don't just look at your credit report and don't just look at your credit score. You want to check both. A lot of people find that they can check their credit report through annualcreditreport.com. That is the official website you want to use. There are 3 credit bureaus that you can pull your credit report from every single year. So at the Money Spot, we recommend that you pick one and check it about every 4 months. And then you kind of rotate through the other 2 credit bureaus so that over the course of a year, you have seen 3 different forms of the same type of information, which is your credit report. As far as your credit score goes, there's a multitude of ways to check that. A lot of times your banking apps might have like examples of what your credit score might be. I know my bank does, but another easy way for you to check that is through Credit Karma. And I will say Credit Karma is slightly different in how it calculates your credit score. The official credit score is called a FICO score, but Credit Karma uses what's called a Vantage score because the FICO formula is very, very, very secretive. So the Vantage score is a pretty similar number. So across like different mediums that might be able to show you your credit score, they might be slightly different, but you want to use that as like kind of a gauge of where you are and not necessarily like, don't get too bogged down in, oh no, this score is 5 points higher, this score is 2 points lower. Like those things don't really matter in the grand scheme of the world, but you want to be kind of checking which range you are. And I think that's all I have to say about credit. I know that that's kind of a lot of information in a short period of time. So if you have more questions about credit, definitely come into the Money Spot and we can absolutely talk about them. Credit is one of my favorite topics to talk about because there's so many little nuances and different things that you can learn to help you put your best foot forward with credit. So we absolutely would love to help you with that. Okay, we're almost getting to the end now. Step 9 is about investing in yourself. So again, I know you're in college and it can seem a little bit early to start thinking about investing, but it's honestly never too early to start thinking about it, especially when you think about the idea of compounding interest, where like the longer you have your money in these investment situations, the more money that you will have at the end of the day when you're ready to pull the money out. So go ahead and start if you're ready. If you're not, then hold off. There's really no right time. But I will say, please make sure that you have your like savings together and maybe an emergency savings already prepared before you start diving into investing, because the emergency savings is to help you in the short term, whereas investing is a long-term opportunity that we're going to talk about. So like I mentioned, you want to start early. So that's thinking maybe you graduate and you are getting your first job and you're reading through the benefits, and a 401k might be something that's listed. So as soon as you possibly can sign up for a 401k with your employer, you'd want to do so, because again, that's just more time that your money will be growing and you'll have more money at the end when you go to retire. You also want to max out the employer match if available. So that is basically where if you contribute up to a certain percentage in your retirement account, your employer will match a certain percentage. So again, if you are doing everything you can to put money into your retirement, your employer will reward you and give you money to help you go towards your retirement as well. So you want to definitely take advantage of those opportunities if they're available to you. If you end up working at a job that does not have a 401k, or you're ready to start investing in your retirement now, an IRA is definitely an option that's available to you. There's two types of IRAs. There's the traditional IRA and the Roth IRA. And the only difference between the two is when the money gets taxed. One is right at the beginning, and then one is when you take the money out. But it's kind of up to you to do that research and figure out what's best for you. But you want to max out your IRA contributions too, if you can, maybe in addition to the 401k, or if a 401k is not an option for you. The contributions can be maxed out at $6,000 per year. So make sure you're putting your money into that where you can. And then we want to think about often, right? We're going to invest in ourselves as often as we possibly can. So that means if your salary is increasing from year to year with every raise, you want to be increasing your contributions. And even as you get a little bit closer to your retirement age, you might want to think about increasing your contributions as well to make sure that you have as much money as you possibly can available to you when you are ready to retire. And then lastly, you want to make sure you're checking your account for fees. We never want you to pay for things that you don't have to. So just be really diligent and really read all the fine print about what kind of fees might be attached to your account, whether it's like individually managed things or robo investors and stuff like that. You just want to make sure you're really reading what those fees are going towards and if you are willing to pay them. But investing in is kind of a long-term thing. So like I said, first, we need to worry about emergency savings and saving maybe for some of those other goals that you have that are a little bit more short-term. Okay, lastly, we want to think about aligning our goals with our values. So kind of at the beginning, what Mia was saying with SMART goals and the R of the SMART acronym, like relevancy, the why are we doing this? We always want to make sure that everything that we're doing, every single step that we went over today is always circling back to that why that we talked about at the beginning, right? Because at the end of the day, that's what's going to keep you motivated to accomplish that goal. If you lose sight of those things, you might be tempted to kind of fall off with your cash flow planning or fall off with your credit utilization, or you might not be paying attention to your student loans, like those types of things. We really want to make sure that everything that we're doing is keeping those goals in mind, because that's how we're going to actually accomplish them. If we lose sight of things, then we could suffer and our goals could suffer the consequences of that. So sometimes we like to do like value sort activities with clients that we have to make sure that, okay, if family is a priority for you, or career or education or friendship is a priority to you, then we're aligning your financial goals and the steps that you're taking with those larger values that you have, the things that are going to make you happy in your life. So know who you are and then know what you want to become. That really will help you go the distance and become financially fit. So that's our whole presentation. Thank you guys so much for listening. If you want more help or you want to talk more about one of the topics that we discussed today, your best course of action would be to set up a Money Spot appointment with us. This semester, we are doing our appointments virtually. So you just go on Navigate and schedule an appointment with us. And we have 11 coaches, so there's tons of availability throughout the week and even the weekends to meet with one of our coaches on a variety of topics. But if you have more specific questions, you can email themoneyspot@vcu.edu. You can check us out on Instagram. That's where we'll be posting about upcoming events and upcoming programs that we have going on. And then lastly, you can check out our website because that's where we'll be posting the registration links for some of our future programming and just some additional resources that you might want to use. So I think that's all I have. Mia, do you have anything you want to add before we close it up for the day?
Nope, I'm great.
Okay. Thank you guys again so much. Let us know if there's something we can help you with.